I see a bad moon rising. I see trouble on the way.
Hey Moon Babes!
Hello.
I'm Bree.
I'm Jackie.
And we are here today in our little dark themed out room right now.
Yeah.
And we are talking about fear.
Fear.
This could be a very long conversation. We're going to try to keep it short. And so I think we're specifically focused in this video on fear that holds you back from things.
Yes. It holds you back and maybe just affects your day to day.
Yes.
Like all the time without you even thinking about it.
Right. We're not talking about nightmares. We're not talking about traumas. Just because those are separate videos. If we were to talk about that, we'd all be here forever. But just day-to-day fear or anxiety or fear that leads to anxiety that you feel like in some way holds you back or prevents you from growing or keeps you from trying new things and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So
the good deep fears.
yeah, right. The ones that have been like conditioned into you from the time you were a child.
Gulp.
Yeah. So we're here. We kind of went with the theme today. It's very like a la gothic chic right now in my apartment.
Yeah, I wish that we could just like live in this
It's
all the time.
actually awesome. I might decorate like this for the rest of my life.
It's pretty great.
Our wine today is Phantom. It's by Bogle Vineyards, if you guys can see it. It is
Very fitting.
Yes, I know, of course. Dark red blend, and it's really good. If you haven't tried it before, definitely go try it. I will say, it finishes. It's very strong.
It is
and
strong.
It's very dry. So if that's not your thing, maybe don't try it, but it's fitting with the theme, obviously. It's very like kind of Halloween in August right now. We're getting a head start.
I know, I'm feeling
The
it.
grocery store already has Halloween everything out, and that has me so in the mood already. Like this was a perfect video.
When you have to wait for Halloween to be able to just actually decorate your house because all your stuff is like gothic, and I just love it so much.
When I just have all these skull things and like random our palmistry hands.
I was gonna say hands.
Yeah,
yes.
I was gonna say
What is it
hands,
with
and then like
hands?
people be like, "Oh, you guys just have hands laying around."
I
Like
have two hands
yeah,
in my house. Two hands.
I have a hand. I have a lot of snake stuff.
You have a lot of snakes.
I do have a lot of snakes. I like snakes. I do. I think they're fascinating.
They are.
Anyways, enough about our theming. Obviously, we're having fun with it right now in our black lipstick. But fear that leads to anxiety. I have a lot of this. I am not afraid to admit it either. I have struggled with anxiety in the past. I feel like I've spent a few years really trying to overcome it, and I think I've done a good job and I'm in a much better spot now than I was a few years back. But for a long time, I felt like I was very driven by the fear of not being good enough. And like Jackie said, it is a very deep-rooted fear. It's something that I'm sure started in my childhood. Give 1,000 examples
like
why.
So many great things that are just daily struggles.
I know. We like to blame the parents, you know.
Damn you all.
No, the whole generation. No, I'm kidding. But it definitely for me did start in my childhood. And in a way, that fear has propelled me to get to where I am today, and it's a great motivator, that's for sure. It's just like when
be who you are without it.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, not even close. If I didn't have fear motivating me, then I don't know how successful I would have become. But when you look at it, you really don't want your life to be motivated by fear, right? Like fear is programmed into us as creatures to keep us safe,
right?
But
keep us
should
alive.
not. Yes, but it should not control you or how you function. And I think for so many people in our country or in the world nowadays, fear unfortunately has become the number one controller.
Well, and fear is a form of control, and I think trying to control things comes from being afraid. Mm-hmm. When you're afraid of something, you feel like you have to control it, or else something bad will happen, or something is going to happen to me, even if it's not something physically, even if it's just like this, I'm going to feel this way if I don't control this. That's what I was thinking that the other day. I've really been just digging into stuff lately. It's been terrible. It's been fucking terrible. But like,
if you saw our last video, we were talking about how in the car Jackie realized, like, had an epiphany that she manipulates people. Not in a bad way, right? Please watch the video to understand
Watch
exactly
the video,
what we're talking
please.
about. But like, oh my God, like this epiphany, like I manipulated somebody to get what I wanted, and holy shit. So you've been doing some digging, you've been doing some shadow work. That's okay. It's healthy. It's important to know those aspects of yourself, right? Like I know that for a long time I let fear drive me.
it affected your daily life.
Oh, absolutely. To the point where I did start struggling badly with anxiety. And like I said, it's taken years to overcome that and finally get to a spot where I feel very stable, and I feel like to an extent it's still there, but it definitely does not control me the way that it did. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is a big difference. I don't know how you get rid of it completely. I think of that all the time as like, well, if I think of the root of what this fear is coming from, but I wonder if it's something that maybe you just become more conscious of and try to...
You learn to live with it.
live with it.
I don't know that you can ever get rid of it completely, and I don't mean that to sound negative, but I know when I was struggling with anxiety, and I would go to all these websites, like, how do I cure my anxiety? And it's like, well, you just do this, and you can get, like, all these things that are like, yeah, you can cure it. I don't genuinely think you can cure it. And then all that did was give me an unrealistic expectation and then making me feel even more like a failure when I couldn't cure it. You know what I mean? Like when I feel a little better, but I'm like, dude, how are other people just fucking curing their stuff, right? Curing their stuff, right? Like, because I can't just get rid of it.
If you're able to cure it, for some reason I'm not able to.
Right, exactly. So I think it's just important to be realistic, and that doesn't mean that, you know, if you have anxiety, you're just doomed forever by any means.
Right.
But you do have to learn to cope with it and try your best to turn it into something, like turn that fear into a positive motivator.
Yeah.
Instead of just letting it get to you to the point where you're having panic attacks, obviously.
And maybe it's one of those like habit things. So I always think of it when... Not that I struggle with anger a lot all the time. It's something
She's in Aries, don't let her lie. No, I'm just kidding.
But it's one of those things like I have great control over my anger, but I'm still prone to be angry.
To have those feelings, even though you might not blow up or do something ridiculous.
I think anxiety, like from fear, is probably somewhat the same. Is that maybe you do feel it, but you have one of those little stops, like where you say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to do that. And I mean, you're not going to be perfect at it. You have to give yourself some grace for when you mess it up.
Yeah. It's exactly what you say, right? Like that is, you can control how you respond to a situation. You can't control the situation, but you can control your response to it. And it feels like you can't with fear and anxiety. It really genuinely feels like that takes over, right? Like you have the adrenaline pumping and you're like, no, I can't. My brain has taken over completely. But like you are your brain. So if you work hard enough, and Google it, find all these different, go see a therapist, find all these different ways, all these different methods. But if you enact these things and you actually put them into play, I promise it does make it easier. And it does make you stop and think about your response to things and maybe picking a direction that's a little bit healthier mentally to go into.
It's like working out your mental muscles. It's the same as another one. You're not going to see, like, you're not going to work out for 2 weeks and look like a bodybuilder. You're not. You have to train that over time. And so, like you said, the fear can be so overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge. It's larger than life. And so you have to give yourself some grace. You're not going to run a 26-mile marathon right off the bat. Like, you're going to have to, you're going to make mistakes and yeah, I do. I feel like, unfortunately, like, it is maybe something that you will kind of have to tame for a while.
Yeah, no, it doesn't happen right away. It's definitely a process, and you just have to... What am I trying to say? You have to... No, I'll cut this part out.
Oh,
I
well, thank you.
literally
Get it
forget.
back. We've had a lot of wine.
I know. No one needs to know that this is glass number 3 in our second video for the day. I was like, God, I had a
And
good
it's not
point,
even
too.
5 o'clock somewhere.
I
It's
had a
not 5
good
o'clock
point.
anywhere.
It's 5 o'clock.
Oh, it is 5 o'clock now. We're good.
5:57. Yeah.
What were we saying? Okay, well, let me ask you something.
Okay.
This is very personal.
Oh.
I'll answer too. If
Okay.
I'm not just putting you on the spot.
Okay.
But if you were to say what your, like, the true root of your fear is, so when you're going back to childhood, kind of like your, like, the birth of your fears is X, is this thing.
Like my deepest fear?
Yeah.
Not being good enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that is there's a whole bunch of them, but I feel like at its core, it's not being good enough. Whether it's not being good enough, honestly, because I never was good enough. Like as a child, I
right.
did not have an easy childhood, and it did not matter what I did. I could have been as perfect as a child could be, and I still took the brunt of everything because
For everyone.
yeah,
Not even for just
absolutely.
yourself.
Absolutely. It was not a good childhood. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people who experience childhoods like mine and who still to this day experience childhoods like mine. Like I do think this generation is a little bit more aware
Yeah.
than a previous generation. So I
agree.
I'm hoping that it's moving into a better direction. But yeah, no, I mean I feel like I grew up very traumatized by a lot of things. And it, at the core, it all boiled back to I just never felt like I was good enough. And I constantly felt like a failure. And looking back, I shouldn't have, right? Like, I was a
No.
good child. I had good grades. I did good things.
You
Eventually-
were over perfect
Oh, yeah.
to compensate
Yes.
for your treatment.
And then as I grew into my teenage years, I blew up. Like, I went through a very bad phase. And yeah, it was kind of like, well, you always want to treat me like shit. Like, I'll show you, you know, like, and I just
Treat me
became,
like the bad guy, I'll be
right,
the bad guy.
yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
I did become the bad guy for, you know, you go through all these stages. This is not supposed to be a pity party, right?
No, that's not a pity
But-
party. That's I mean, I think that your daily fears and anxieties, like, it seems like this surface thing, but if you truly are digging down to, like, what is the core of this, like, growing up in something that's so toxic like that, to where you could never have been good enough.
Oh, yeah, for
You
sure.
absolutely could not do anything to
For
be good
sure.
enough.
Yeah. But so you look at it now, and like, just for me personally, when I'm looking at things, I'm like, I get anxiety at work in a lot of situations. Most people that I work with would not know this because I feel like
Right.
I hide it pretty well. I have a lot of practice hiding it well. But I get major anxiety because in my head, I'm like, do I even deserve this job? I know I deserve this job. But deep
Right.
down, I question if I deserve this job. Somebody is doubting me. I have all these intrusive thoughts. Like, I'm just not doing it the way that I should, or I'm not as good as somebody else.
Right.
And then, like,
It was
if
a
I
mistake
ever-
they put me in this position. Like, they just
Right.
didn't know what they were doing.
Right. I must have presented well, but little do they know, like, I'm really just a cluster. And like, no. And I know I'm not, and I know I'm qualified,
Right.
but it doesn't matter. Those thoughts are there anyways. And if I wanted to ever go apply to a different job, right? Like, I've been at this job for a very long time. I can tell you, I would be terrified. Like, I
Yeah.
would be terrified, and I would question, am I qualified for this? Like, I feel that way in a relationship. Do I really deserve, like, a very successful partner, like a successful man who has all his shit together, who
Wow.
wants, like, a very stable, like, I don't
Dude,
know that I always
whoa.
feel like I deserve that.
That's huge.
It's
No.
true.
Like, even just
It's
you
true.
saying that. That's
I know,
huge.
and I'm pretty good about, like I said, I've spent years
Mm-hmm.
working on this. And that's why even you're surprised, because you don't necessarily know, because I make decisions anyways, because I'm like, no, I am good enough, and I force it. So I feel like people wouldn't know, but those thoughts are absolutely there.
I guess I just hadn't
Absolutely.
thought of it even when you were talking about, like, for, like, a partner. That's huge, and you are
That's
not
why
the
I pick
only one.
shitty men. Wait, cut that out.
No, they've all been shit. It's fine. We don't have to cut anything out.
Cut that shit
No,
out.
I think
because
that's
in my
huge.
head, I think deep down, I feel like, oh, I'm meant to be with someone like this. Like, this is more up my alley.
I think so many people can relate to that. I think the big thing is that you see that, but you know, like when people are like, man, like I always just choose somebody who treats me like this, and it's subconsciously, unfortunately, we do kind of play those things out until we can become conscious enough to say like, wait, like I'm attracted to all this mess right here, but like I'm not going to do it this time.
Right? Yes, exactly. Like, maybe I'll stop making the same mistakes over and over again. Yeah.
That's huge. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
What do you feel like yours is?
I would say it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
Not being good enough. Mine is, I don't know if it's just in the wording, but is like not being, you said not being good enough. Mine is like not being worthy. And it's just across the board, just not being worthy of literally anything. Like I couldn't ever do enough, be enough, play a good enough part to be worthy of anything I'm given. And I absolutely hate taking anything I haven't worked for.
Yep.
I have a hard time, which men for the most part, like they do like to feel like they serve a purpose, and I have to consciously allow that because I don't feel like I deserve to have anybody do anything for me. Like I feel like I have to do something to get that. But that's not
I
how
can see
it
that.
works.
It's very similar. I feel
It's
like our
similar.
experiences are a little bit different, but the whole concept is
right.
similar.
Our childhoods, I actually had a great childhood. I think it's more, it's just like, I'm looking at it, from a parent's perspective. There are things that like I wasn't aware of. I don't feel like I was very awake or conscious of things when I was raising, even mine when they were younger. And so like I look back and I think you put a lot of your like hurts and stuff on your kids that kind of compounds until you become aware enough to be like, okay, well I'm not going to do that anymore. So I wouldn't say like my parents were great. Like I don't have any complaints. I think it's just more like humanity as a whole. Like you're going to pick up traumas as a child because
of
we're all
course.
human.
Right, of
Your
course.
parents are human. Oh my gosh,
I
I'm
know.
a freaking human. I do so much wrong. I try to remind myself like, well, that'll be good trauma processing for them later.
Oh, stop. You're an awesome mother. Stop it.
But
It's-
I think those are similar. Those are similar.
Yeah.
Similar things. I think a lot of people have that one.
I think so too, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to just blame an entire generation, right? And I understand that they're human, and I understand their behavior comes from how they were raised by their parents,
yeah.
right? So it's just like, this is how the world has evolved, and it just is what it is. And so many people have these fears. Like, if you're scared of not being good enough, or whatever your fears are, right? Or whatever causes your anxiety, there's a lot of people that feel the same way. Like, you are definitely not
yeah.
alone. But like I said, the key is trying to learn to overcome it, because I know, like, when you're deep in the thick of fear, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It takes everything out of you. Like, you can't even think coherently. You certainly can't be
You're
the
not
best
living in
version
this
of yourself.
world with everybody.
No.
You're
Oh, no, no.
pretending, but inside
Yeah.
you are not here.
Yes. It is definitely exhausting. It holds you back. It's not healthy. It causes physiological, like, actual, like, health problems in your body when you have that much mental stress. Like, you have to find a way to get rid of fear.
Yeah.
And I'm trying an exercise. It was given to me or recommended to me from Charmaine from Beads and Potions. So thank you, Charmaine.
Charmaine.
I know, she's the coolest.
Cheers, Charmaine.
Cheers. And if you have not checked out her website, you absolutely should, or her Instagram. It's Beads and Potions. And she gave me a really good exercise that I'm putting a lot of effort into right now to overcome some of
sounds
my
amazing.
fears. So
Yeah.
I will let you guys know how it's working for me. I don't know that I feel comfortable explaining all of it here, but maybe reach out to her and see if she can give you some tips, because she definitely helped me out a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, she has not only a lot of great stuff on her website, like products and stuff, but like just as a human being,
Super
she's
knowledgeable.
so knowledgeable.
So insightful, and just she'll be like, hey, this came to me in the shower the other day. Like, a spirit spoke to me and said, you need to do this. Like, she just has it down.
She's on it, yeah.
Yeah, and so I definitely appreciate it, and I feel like it really motivated me to just continue my journey into freeing myself of fears and anxiety, because Lord knows you just can't live with that shit. Like, you
It
can't.
is too exhausting. You get to a point where you, like, it's like a fork in the road where you really do have to, like, I cannot keep going like this. Yeah.
But
I will say, on a positive note, that if we are talking about, like, generations, I know you can't just lump people into one big group and say, like, this, or this, but kind of, like, a little bit, I'm going to.
no one will judge.
Millennials, if you look back at other generations, I feel like the focus was so different from what it is now. Like, I feel like our generation as millennials crave something bigger. We've been put into this
right.
box of, like, what our culture is, especially in America, which is so shallow. And I think that's where all the depression is coming from, is people saying, like, but I feel there's more than that. And so I feel like it's like a game-changing generation.
We can do a whole video on that. I can't, oh my gosh.
Like, yeah, I think there is hope. Like let's take a hold of this shit and
That's
heal
why we're
it.
becoming so awake. That's why the generations now, like, it's just getting better and better, right? And more people are waking up because they realize this, how we were living is stifling. And some people function very well in that, and that's okay.
Right.
But I would say the majority of people are like, God, I have to live for something more, right? Like, I have to live for something better than this. And that's
like, this can't be all there is.
Humanity on its personal growth, right? Like, it's, I mean, you got to think of the earth and our entire, like, race, like, or not our entire race, but our entire species, right? Like, is also growing and evolving with time and becoming better and better. Like, we are becoming more, and it, you know, it's a very slow process. It happens over, like, a million years, right? But
that's some good
we were different. People were much different a couple hundred years ago. They value different things. They live differently, right? Like, there's a lot of cultures and traditions that have been passed down, but the focus, like you said, is different for every generation.
Well,
and I like to think it is getting better.
You know what I think? I always say this, and again, like y'all don't get mad.
Oh.
Okay, I feel like so many cultures have so many rich spiritual traditions. Mm-hmm. And I know that the United States as a whole is very young. And I think the traditions came from breaking away, which was good. That was their path. But then it became like this, like, system of, like, growth towards things that weren't so much spiritual, but more regimented. I feel like, this is just my opinion. I'm not some, like, expert. But I feel like now, like, whereas, like, before there was all of this, like, spirituality, and then it became, like, this, like, whole machine of, like religion and rules. So they broke away and did this, and it became this other thing. And now I feel like maybe we're coming back to being able to, like, have some spirituality.
Or we're just now figuring it out. Like, if you think about it, because the United States is such a young culture compared to other countries, like, the other countries had all these spiritual traditions, and people in other countries still, even if they don't necessarily follow all the old traditions,
right,
it still is a part in their life, right?
Right.
And we in America don't have that. Like, what traditions are we falling back on? We pull a little bit from Europe. We pull a little bit from Africa. We pull a little bit from Asia, right?
It's
like,
a mishmash.
Hey, I'm going to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, right? Like, it's because the United States is so many cultures combined into one, we all like to, I mean, we all merge, right? And it's a great thing. So we celebrate all these different things from all these different cultures, but we don't really have our own, like, steeped in tradition. And I think you're right. I think that's where the disconnect is a little bit. And I know you do see it in other countries too. It's not just the United States. We're not bashing on America, right? By any means.
It's just we're just commentating. It's just an opinion,
Not trying to offend anybody. But I mean, I think we are just now trying to figure out who we as a country are, probably. Yeah, like, where are our traditions? What do we believe in spiritually? What are our, like, ancient ancestors telling us, right? Because they're from
Yeah.
freaking everywhere. Like, we're such a mishmash of people.
Yes.
I don't even know my genetics. I don't know what I am.
No, I don't either.
So it's like, I don't know. I went to see a psychic down in Dallas last year, and she was like, girl, you gotta spit in a tube, right? But then I have my brother who's like, no, then the government has your DNA,
That's
and there's
me.
gonna be 8 of you walking around before you know it. Like, they're gonna
That's
clone
me.
you.
I'm like, I
So
can't do it.
Yeah, I just don't know. But like, and then even if, say my results come back, right, and I am most definitely not a natural blonde. We all understand that, right? But if I come back and say, for example, I'm part Italian, okay? I'm just spitballing. Like, does that necessarily mean that Italian culture is something that I'm going to embrace if it's never been a part of my life? No. So, like, that doesn't even necessarily matter either. What are my genetics? It's where do I feel the most comfortable, and what traditions do I want to start setting for myself, and what traditions do I want to look back on, and what do I value? What do I embrace?
That's really good, because you know what that does? Like, I know that we need, like, identifying markers and things, but, like, kind of, I feel like at the end, I don't even know how to say it. Like, at the end of the day, you might not resonate with that, because, like, if we are all coming from, like, one general, like, place or consciousness or whatever, like, you believe, you will find what resonates with you. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. We were watching X-Files. Have you ever watched X-Files?
Oh, yeah.
I've never watched
many,
it.
many years ago.
We're watching through it for the first time. And there was an episode, and it was about werewolves, and I love all of that stuff so much. But it was, like, Native American culture, which is so rich. And, like,
yes.
we were watching it, and I even said, I was like, I hate that, like, we don't have something, like, they were doing this, like funeral burial ceremony, and it was just so, like, steeped in, like, just,
you can feel the
Oh, my
power of, like,
gosh.
centuries of belief.
yes.
Mhm,
And
I
it's
know.
the entire community, and I was like, I want to live in that.
Uh-huh.
I want to live in that.
And have that same type of buy-in. Like, not just experience it,
Yes.
but experience it where it means something, like, all the way deep into your fucking core of your
Yes.
being. Like, yes, I agree.
Yes.
Yes! Cheers to traditions.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I don't even know how we got on that from fear, but
I'm so sorry. This is what happens, but I just,
that's yes.
yeah, I guess we should reel it back. But
No, I think that was a really good. That's a great conversation.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it.
yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I think you're right. It all comes from something bigger, and at the end of the day, we're all the same, right? Like, all of our
Yes.
religions, all of our, like, it all is just us trying to figure out how to be the best that we can be, and trying to figure out what happens after.
We all have different experiences, but right, like,
it
we're
can all
all-
resonate with you. But
Yes.
God, how do we get onto
What?
this from fear?
what are we doing?
We were oh my gosh.
Well, we had a point. It was like, oh, fear, but like we're breaking generational blah blah blah. I don't know. Where are we? Hello.
Hang on, pause.
Hi, we're Moon Babes. We're here talking to you about we don't really know what.
So anyways, all that to say, you just, regardless of what culture you come from, regardless of what generation you come from, you should not be living in fear, right? It is not healthy. You have to find a way to deal with it.
You have to face it. You can't run from it. You cannot run from it.
And dealing with fear and anxiety is a process. It
Yes.
is a long process.
Yes.
It's not something that you can just all of a sudden overcome. And please do not let yourself feel like a failure if you feel like you can't get rid of it right away,
Right.
or if you feel like you need to resort to medication.
That's what I was gonna say. That's not a failure.
No,
a lot
no,
of people
not at
are just
all.
like, you can't, but sometimes you need, like that, you might need medication, seeing a therapist. Hello, we should all see a therapist.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend therapy to
yeah, it's
anybody.
great to just unload all your shit onto somebody.
It
like
is.
somebody who's completely non-biased.
They
like,
have no
just
stakes in it.
Word vomit, and they're just like, sure, and they're happy to listen
Yes.
to you. There is no harm that comes from therapy.
It's
like,
the
I
best
highly
release.
recommend it.
Yeah, it
But-
really is. There's no shame in that. Like you said, like, it's huge. Fear is huge. Like, we are not downplaying that. We get it.
But just, God, you can't let it hold you back.
Yeah.
You can't let it stop you from living life, right? Like, it's too short. Our life is too fucking short to be living in fear all the time. That's not how we were made.
We don't even live as long as parrots, you guys.
Jackie didn't know that parrots live to be like 80 to 100 years old. If you didn't know,
what?
now you know. Yeah, I have a lot of animal experience. I used to raise birds for a living when I was younger. So, but yeah,
it's a short period of time.
Very short period of time, and you have to embrace it. So we will probably do another video on fear, because I noticed we're at like 30 minutes right now, and we just have a lot to talk about. But as a whole, fear in your daily life that causes anxiety, that makes you feel like maybe you're not good enough, or makes you feel like, hey, I'm not qualified to do something, or I don't know if I really want to tackle that, like, you have to find a way to live around that type of fear.
And know that you're not alone. Like, we're both sitting here saying, like, we have such relatable...
You know how many people have anxiety?
Oh my gosh.
Like, oh my gosh.
We're all out here faking it. We all have anxiety. Oh my gosh.
Fear can motivate you. You just have to make sure you turn it into something positive that just drives you and makes you be better and strive for something
And if you
else.
feel like you can't cope with how big it feels, get help. There is nothing that says that, like, well, this should be enough to get you through. Like, don't be ashamed of that.
Yeah.
We all have different ways we cope.
Yeah, we are not therapists. I do just want to like make sure I put that out there. We would be happy to listen to you.
Yes.
If you want to send us a comment right on Instagram or YouTube and let us know, like, we will engage in discussion with you. We will help you as best as we can. Like, please trust me, we get it.
A listening ear. We're definitely not professionals, but
absolutely. But we do just want you to know that, you know, there are other people out there too. So that's all I think we have for today, and we will revisit fear, and I won't even need to decorate again because I'm just going to leave my entire apartment looking like this because it is so cool, and I just want to live in a haunted house forever. This is me. That was my spirit animals over here, all my snakes.
Yes.
But yeah, so if you guys like this video, please like and subscribe.
Yes.
And check us out on Instagram, moonbabes11. And that's all I've got today.
Yes, we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.
Bye, Moonbabes.
Bye, you guys.
Cheers.
Don't go around tonight. It's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on